Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our very first virtual class, and we're live. If you're watching us on rewatch or you're live with us, thank you for joining us. The great thing about us being on video is that you can pause, even if you're watching live, you can pause us. And the magic of if you're watching us on rewatch is you can fast forward too. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that in real life? So I'm Heidi Crowell. I will be the student, and you are going to create together with me. And we have a teacher who will be joining us in a couple of minutes, Nina-Marie Trapani. She is going to be doing a full guided class for us today. It's going to be about 2 hours. And if you're live, you can chat with us. Tell me to slow down, tell her to speed up, whatever it might be you can't hear, or you have a question about the products. That's the beauty of us being live today. If you're one of the people who snagged a kit, great. You're gonna wanna have that kit ready to go. If you do not have the kit for today's class, that's okay too. Welcome. You can join along. If you might have bought some a la carte items, I do know we had some customers buying some of the stamps and dies and stencils a la carte. That's great. The reason I put the kit together for you, I should say we, because Nina had a big hand in that, is so that you could have all of your supplies together for this class. For me, as a student, that's what I love. We're also going to be starting the class with die cutting today. So I'm going to go through some of the essentials, whether you have the kit or not, that'll be really necessary for us in class today. So Reed and Brian are here. Thank you guys. They're moderating and they're doing our lights, our camera, our action. They're going to switch the camera for me so I can show you some of the supplies that are necessary, that were not included in the kit, but are necessary. A pair of scissors. A pokey tool is going to be really nice for poking a hole in your tag or a small hole punch. A ruler of any type, just because we're going to be measuring your twine so we can cut it into smaller pieces. Some kind of stamping block or MISTI. I'm using both in class today. I think Nina's primarily using her MISTI. As you can see, the stamp and stencil mat, it is actually included in your kit. Also, if you have on hand any kind of tape, it will make your die cutting a little bit easier today. Okay, we can go to the front camera again, gentlemen. I want to make sure I have her. Oh, and if you have a bone folder, that would be really nice. But if you don't have a bone folder, it's going to be for creasing our box. We're going to make a box, a tag, and a card today. And when I switch and introduce Nina, you will see what we'll be making today. A couple of pieces of housekeeping before we get started. Please share this video. If you're not subscribed already, this would be a great time for you to subscribe. We hope to do more classes like this, and so your feedback is going to be super important on how we can do it better next time. And I'll tell you, one of the things that we really struggled with is, should we do the die cutting in class together? Or should we give it to you for homework? And because I get to put this class, I get the control, I get to be the decision maker, I hate homework. So I said, let's just do the die cutting in class and then Nina can guide us through it. And it's only gonna be a short bit of die cutting, but we will do it together in class. And in your kit, which I think I should go through the kit now too, actually. Yeah, so Reed and Brian, why don't you guys put the camera back again, because I will show what is in everybody who purchased that kit. It was $99.95, so it's no wonder they went in just a couple of hours. You're gonna have a basic black ink pad, your glue is in the kit, you've got 3 blending brushes in the kit. I wanted to make sure I pointed out to you, Tara said there is a piece of acetate. Tara put these kits, big round of applause for Tara. Tara put these kits together. There is a piece of acetate that you gotta look for in the kit. It's gonna be the window for your box. There's a double foam piece of double-sided sticky. There's a Love You More, Groovy Love You More set of dies. Love Letter set of dies. Postage Edge set of dies, terrific tape. Oh, this is great to be using to assemble our box. There are some foam strips. See, we put this together so you wouldn't have to need anything. Everything's here. There's a layered stencil set. This is 4 stencils called Outline Hearts. This is the box, the Sweethearts box that we will be making and assembling in class today. You are going to receive already pre-cut, pre-scored card, A2 sized card. You, in your box, have a black pen, which is a fun technique that Nina is going to be showing us. You've got 3 ink pads in your box, Cranberry carnation, and tropic. Some people might have received variations of these, but a pink, a red, and then a tropic, which is kind of like a blue-green in your kit. And then everybody got a piece of black cardstock and some white cardstock, which you'll see in a little bit. We will be die cutting in class. Okay, we can go back to the front camera, gentlemen. Okay, so housekeeping. If you are interested in future classes, which not very many people were able, actually, everybody can watch us live today. So whether you're watching us live or on rewatch, it's a free class. We're going to leave this class on our YouTube channel if that was a question that anybody had. We are planning on doing virtual events this year. So let's create together virtually. So there will not be an in-person create event at Simon Says Stamp this year. We're going to hopefully do the in-person event next year and try these virtual events, because these virtual events give everybody all around the world an opportunity to craft along and create together. So those are my notes. Reed, is there anything that I missed that before we introduce Nina and she can show us the projects we're going to make today that we should be doing?
Nope, we're ready to bring in Nina.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Nina-Marie Trapani is joining us from her studio out
Hello.
east. Welcome, Nina. Thank you for teaching me and everybody else along with me today for this class.
I am so excited to do this. We're going to have a lot of fun creating today. You and I have gotten to play around and like test out the projects. We've had so much fun putting them together. So doing it live with everybody else is going to be a blast.
Agreed. I did get a little bit of teacher's pet because I'm so nervous. I did the projects ahead of time with Nina, and I would encourage you all to create along with us, and then you can make multiples. And every time you assemble a box or make a card, it gets better and better and better. So don't be shy. Go at it. Don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. I go rogue. Nina knows that. You'll probably see me grow rogue a little bit. We'll show you a couple different ways to do things without hopefully being confusing. And Nina, I'm going to try to be quiet so you can, and that's going to probably be one of my biggest challenges of the day, but I'll be as quiet as possible so that you can focus on teaching. Do you want to show everybody what we're going to make?
I would love to. Let's take a look. So these are the products the projects that we're creating today. We have this super cute card, and this features the fun stencils that Heidi was showing. We've got the Groovy Love You More as our large focal point for the sentiment. We've got some cute little twine, and that's also in your kit if you purchased it. We're going to do some fun techniques with that black pen. If you notice, we're going to create some fun stenciling effects. Then we've also got these cuties, and these can be used either together or on their own. I have a little tag, and we're going to actually make this tag. It's not actual like a tag die. We're actually going to make it with the postage stamped edge frames dies that are in your kit. So these are going to get turned into a tag, which I think is a really fun way to be able to stretch your supplies. So this cute little tag would work perfectly attached to your box. You could add it with a piece of washi to the top, or maybe like a Tim Holtz tiny attacher. This box is super cute. Look at all the detail on it. We're going to be doing some stamping on it. We're adding some fun little accessories with our dies, and you can fill this with fun treats. And the best part is because we're going to cut a window into it, you can actually see what's inside, which I think is fun. So as you can see here, I filled it with some chocolates. So really, really cute projects. This could be a little gift set that you want to give to somebody, or you can use them as on their own as individual elements. So really fun. Heidi, are you ready to create?
I sure am. Let's create together, Nina.
Yes, I'm really excited about this. Okay, so we're going to do a few little like prep pieces to start, because we want to be able to easily work on all of our projects, and we don't want to have to go back and forth on things. So I'm going to do some prep work with you, Heidi. We're going to pre-cut our white cardstock. We're also going to pre-cut our twine. You get about 50 inches of twine in your kit. And then we'll also do our die cutting. And we're going to do a little stamping too before we die cut. So Heidi, if you want to pull out your twine, that's what we need to work with first.
Okay, is everybody crafting along? Are there people, if you're crafting along with us while Nina opens her bag and we get this twine ready, I would love to see a show of hands in the audience. If you're watching us live, would you give us a heart if you're crafting along with us live. It's okay if you're just watching. I like that too. But I am curious for the pacing and everything if you are watching us live. Okay,
Yeah,
so
this is
Nina,
a great
that
time
was my
to get
interruption
started.
while Brian grabbed the twine I lost. So, but I am really curious. That's a really genuine question. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so like Heidi was mentioning earlier, for some of the supplies you might want to have on hand, you're going to want to have some way to be able to measure this twine, because we want to make sure that we have enough for all of our projects, because I'll come back here and show you. We're going to need a little bit of twine for the box. We'll need a little bit of twine for our tag. And then we need enough to also still tie around our card. So I have figured out the measurements for you, so that way it makes it really simple and easy. I'm going to use a ruler to help me measure. We're using our Simon Says Stamp T-square ruler, but if you have a work surface, like I'm working on a glass mat, this also has measurement tools on it. Whatever you have on hand to be able to measure this. Okay, so the first measurement I'm going to do is 20 inches. So I'm going to, because my ruler's only 12, I'm going to actually go ahead and bring it to the 10. Eyeball that, just kind of pinch it where I want to keep that mark, and then bring it back to the 10 so I can cut 20 inches. I'm going to use my scissors to go ahead and cut that. Okay, so we have a 20-inch length. Now I'm going to take my twine again, and this time I'm going to measure 22 inches, so just a little bit longer. So this time I'm going to go down to the 12-inch mark, pinch that, and do another 12 inches. Let me slide that over so you can see. Okay. So I got 22. Thereabouts. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but just that's kind of like rough guide measurements. And then the leftover piece, that's going to be perfect for our tag. Okay? Does that make sense, Heidi?
Yep, got it.
All right. So I'm going to set these aside so I don't lose them. And then I'm going to work on cutting the white cardstock. Because we're going to be using the white cardstock on quite a few things, I'll show you here. We're going to be die cutting our tag from it. We're going to be die cutting the box, which will look generally like this after we're done die cutting. We're also going to need to die cut our sentiment, our background panel for our card, and we'll even be stamping and die cutting some little stamped elements that are going to accessorize our pieces. I find it helpful to kind of pre-cut this white cardstock a little bit so that way it will just be easier to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one of these sheets completely in half. And if you want to use a paper trimmer to be exact, you are more than welcome to. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So I'm cutting this in half lengthwise. So the longer edge, cut that down in half. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut this one in half as well. But I'm going to then also cut it in quarters, at least one side of it. So in half, and then this side I'm going to cut in quarters. It's just going to be a little bit easier for me to work with that way. All right, so you should have some smaller pieces now that you can work with. And we're ready to go ahead and work on some stamping, because that is kind of critical, because we're going to need to die cut some of these stamped images. And I want to do all the die cutting at once, so that way it makes it a little bit more simpler for you to not have to reach for your die cut machine over and over. So we're going to be stamping this little envelope, and we'll be adding some cute little pieces. This is from your Love Letter stamp set, which if you bought the kit, that came with. So you're going to be using this stamp set to do some stamping. In addition to the little envelope, we're also going to stamp this little strip, this cute little like postage. You see it a lot of times on like postcards and vintage postage pieces. This fun little stamp is going to be a cute border for our box. So we're going to do that next. And I'm going to use my Misty for the stamping, but if you don't have a Misty, a clear block will work just fine. So I'm going to place my paper into my Misty. And I do have inside of my Misty here one of our Simon Says Stamp craft tacky mats, which is really good for holding paper in place. But if you notice, Heidi is using the stamp and stencil mat that is included in your kit. So goes to show you a lot of different ways that you can utilize the kit contents. We're going to use that stamp and stencil mat for some stenciling later on, but it also works great for a surface inside of your MISTI to keep your paper from shifting. Okay, so Heidi, from your love letter stamp set, we're going to grab the little envelope and we're going to stamp that first. Okay?
Hey, Nina.
Yes.
Can you zoom your camera out a little bit, please?
Absolutely.
Thank
How's
you.
that look? Okay. It's a brand new stamp. So I'm going to also kind of condition this stamp a little bit. I like to run my fingers over the stamp just to kind of help, just put some oil down on it. It'll help the ink stick to it a little bit better. So I'm just going to rub my hand across it. All right, so to stamp, we're going to be using the black ink that is in your kit. This stamp or ink is perfect for stamping black images. It is super crisp. It's got a really nice dark stamped finish. You don't have to stamp this multiple times to get that really intense black color. So if you don't have your ink pad open, Heidi just opened up hers. Go ahead and get the plastic off of that. And we're going to use this to stamp not just the envelope, but we'll also use it to stamp our greeting. This is also a really great ink for if you wanted to do clear embossing over top, because it does stay wet a little bit longer. It's a pigment ink. It's really, really high quality. So Heidi, you go ahead and ink up your envelope. We're going to stamp this onto our white cardstock. Just give that a little press. I like to just kind of walk my fingers across it just because I want to keep a nice clean finish. Check that out. Okay, so now I'm going to clean off my stamp and I'm going to bring in the next piece. And for this, once I put this back on the sheet, all right, Heidi, next you're going to grab the Paper Hugs sentiment. It's right down along the bottom of your stamp, down by that large hugs greeting. So bottom right area of the stamp. And this, I will zoom in a little bit just so you can see it better. You want to line this up along the top edge of your paper. And I'll also show you the example on the tag again. We're going to add a little heart underneath of the Paper Hugs. So we want to make sure we leave enough room. So if you line this up towards the top edge of the paper, that'll still give you plenty of space to add that cute little heart. So I'm just going to carefully maneuver that into place. I think that looks good. And then I'll go ahead and ink this up with the same black ink. So we're still using the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And again, I'm just going to be very careful how I press this down. I don't want to push too hard so that way I kind of squish the ink outside of the stamp. It allows me to get a really nice, clean, crisp stamping. What do you think, Heidi?
I'm pausing for a moment because I had my Paper Hugs upside down, and this is a good point where I would encourage people in the chat to tell us how you're doing for timing and clarity. They're on about a 10-second delay.
I absolutely love this stamp set because it allows you to build so many different pieces. You've got so many different elements that are all postage themed, but then you've got some really cute sentiments too that are large, great focal points. I really, really love the postage theme because it's so popular right now. All right, so once you've stamped your sentiment, Heidi, we're going to bring in one of these hearts. I'm going to be using this small one up in the top kind of middle section of the stamp. It's over by the arrow. And this, we're going to line up, like I said, right underneath the Paper Hugs. So I'm just going to kind of position that into place. Again, this is what we're going for. We want the heart right underneath. Now this time we're going to use a different color of ink. I'm actually going to be bringing in our red. So like Heidi said, some of you are going to have cranberry and some of you may have had cherry instead. They're both very similar reds, beautiful and rich for like a Valentine's color. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up and then stamp that right underneath the paper hooks. Okay, I'll zoom out here. Alrighty, now we have our postage piece stamped. The last thing we need to do is stamp this cute little strip that's going to be a great border on our box. So I'm going to grab that next. And I'm going to go ahead and line this up next to my postage, next to my envelope. But I do want to make sure I leave enough room because remember we're going to die cut these, so you want to leave room for your coordinating die to come in. So I might shift that over just a little bit more. Just kind of straighten it up and then pick it up with the door of my MISTI. This time we're going to bring in our Tropic ink. So this really pretty teal color is going to allow us to create this fun border along the bottom of our box. I really love how that teal sets off the pink and red. Okay, so we'll go ahead and ink this up. And I'm going to ink up the whole thing, even though we're going to trim this so it fits the width of the box. I like having a little bit of extra. Oh, I forgot to prime my stamp. These are brand new stamps, so I want to make sure it's primed. So let me go ahead and dry this off, and that should allow me to get a better stamping. You
One of the
always want
reasons
to
why
prime. Oh, go ahead, Heidi.
I was just gonna say one of the reasons why I like the MISTI so much is because I don't know if anybody's watching what I'm doing. I'm stamping mine twice, and the MISTI allows me to do that.
Yeah, it's really helpful. When I make a mistake like that, it's so nice to be able to like, oh, I can just re-stamp it. Before, when we had clear blocks, that was always a challenge to be able to line something back up where you stamped. All right, so we have finished our stamping for now, but keep your stamps handy because we are going to come back to these. So I'm just going to put mine away for the moment. I'm going to put it back into my clear pocket just to keep it safe. Our Simon Says Stamp storage pockets are fantastic for holding our stamps and dies, stencils. We have all the different sizes. All right, so we can also put our MISTI or stamping tool away for the moment. Zoom back in a little bit more so you can see. So at this point, Heidi, we're ready to start prepping for our die cutting. And I'm going to walk through all the dies with you to show you which ones are going to be cut from which paper. So you're going to want to have all your cardstock handy and all of the die sets. We'll start first with the love letter dies, the coordinating dies that come with the stamp set. We're going to work with these first since we have our paper still in front of us. So I'm going to grab some tape and I'm going to use the little strip die. This coordinates with our little border. And then we also need the envelope coordinating die. And I'm just going to go ahead and tape these down. And I do want to make sure that I'm taping the top and the bottom portion of my border so that way it doesn't shift. Because if you were only add tape to like the middle, it would be very easy for the die to kind of wiggle in your die cut machine. So to ensure that this stays in place, I would recommend adding a piece of tape to both the top and the bottom areas. And Heidi, all of the students got coordinating dies, and actually all the dies are D-tabbed. Is that correct?
I think everybody who got a kit has yes. All those lucky people who got the kit, that was one of the special things of the kit, is they were D-tabbed for you already. Mine are not D-tabbed because I did not, the students got the D-tabbed ones.
Yes, they're special.
We're making improvements on all of our products, and one of the improvements for 2025 is to D-tab all of our dies. So we're slowly but surely getting there.
I am so excited about that. Okay, so in addition to these pieces, I'm going to set this aside. We're going to work on the next set of dies. I'm going to bring in the Love You More, Groovy Love You More die. And I'm going to grab some of the white cardstock. and also the rich red metallic cardstock that we have in the kit. You get a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch sheet of this. So on these two pieces, we're going to be cutting the Groovy Love You More die. So you need both the shadow layer and the sentiment itself. The shadow is what we're going to cut from the rich red. We're going to use the white to cut the actual greeting. And I like to cut my paper close to the size of the die, just to kind of help with my cutting, or when it's in my machine. So I'm just going to trim these. You don't have to. You could run the whole sheet through if you wanted to. It's just personal preference. So we're going to need both of these pieces. I will add just a little bit of tape to both of mine, just so they don't move. Okay, and I pulled out cute washi tape for the class because I thought it would be festive. So next, I want to bring in one of the stars of the show, because this is our box, and this is going to create this adorable little treat box, which you could, like I said, fill with candy or a small gift. It's totally up to you. So this die set has so many pieces in it, and one of the things I would love to challenge you to do is, even after this class, use this die set for other themed projects. So we're making a Valentine's box today, but you could totally use this box to make a teacher's gift or a birthday gift. We're gonna make a window that's a heart. You could swap out that heart shape for a star or a circle or whatever other shape you want to create the window. It's a lot of fun to be able to use this for other things other than just Valentine's Day. So you'll need this basic shape of the box. You're also going to need the largest heart. That's going to be the window. You're also going to need the two smaller hearts. These we're going to cut from some pretty cardstocks. And then finally, you'll need the XOXO greeting, okay? And from these...
Okay, slow down.
Yep, take your time.
I'm looking for my XOXO, and I can't be the only one.
Oh, no!
Okay, found him.
Good.
So I found my XOXO,
and
my
then you
large
need your
heart,
two hearts.
my smaller heart. Okay.
Yeah, there should be 3 hearts in total. And then you have your larger heart for the window. You have everything?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with these 2 hearts, we're going to cut 3 pieces from the red cardstock. So I'm going to cut 2 of the smaller hearts from this. So we need 2 small pieces that we can cut the smallest heart from. So I'm just going to cut some small pieces that I can use in my die cut machine. So you'll need the small heart cut twice, and then the medium-sized heart we're going to cut once. And you'll end up with this little strip left over, which is great for cutting more hearts if you wanted to. So Heidi, you'll have 3 pieces of red. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then the XOXO, we're going to cut from black. You get a whole sheet of the black cardstock. This is our Simon Says stamp black, which is beautiful. And this we're also going to need to cut twice. So I'm going to cut some small pieces that I can run through my die cut machine, because we're going to use this to decorate the sides of the box. And we're doing it to both sides, here and also here. So we need to cut it twice. All right, you got those, Heidi?
Yep.
Okay, so set those aside. The next thing we're going to need to cut is the box itself. So I'm going to lay this onto one of the half sheets that we cut from the white cardstock, and I'm going to tape this in place because I don't want this to move. And then I'm also going to show you where we're going to place the largest heart, which is going to create the window. We're going to cut that window at the same time that we cut the rest of the box. Okay, so I'm taping that on both ends just so it doesn't move. And then this heart, which is the largest one, is the one that we're going to use to cut the window. This I'm going to place inside of this rectangle that has this little notch. This notch cuts a cute little slit into the top of your box to allow you to close it. So I like having the window on this panel. It doesn't really matter. You can put it on whichever one you want, but I prefer this one. And this I'm going to tape in place. Once I line this up to where I'm happy with it, you do want to leave some room down below, just so I can show you, so that way you can add your twine and also that little border. So just make sure you leave a little bit of room down there. So I kind of like it about here. And then I'm just going to very carefully add a little piece of tape so that way it won't shift when I run this through, because this is critical of not moving. So make sure you have plenty of tape on your box and also the die that's creating your window. Okay. And then finally, you also will have this postage stamp edge frames die set in your kit. We're going to die cut 2 of these pieces to create a panel and also our tag. So from this, you need your largest of the rectangles. It's the largest one. And then you're also going to need the small square. So the largest postage rectangle and then the small square. Those are our 2 pieces that we'll need for the rest of our die cutting.
Nina, real quick, there is
Yes.
a question from the chat. My mic's too close.
Absolutely. What's that?
So can you still buy this kit?
You can't buy the kit, but all of the items are available for individual purchase. So the box, the stamp set, the Love You More greeting, even down to the inks and the stencils. All of these things are available over at the Simon Says Stamp store.
Perfect. Thanks
They
so
just
much.
aren't available as a kit anymore. The kit was a limited time purchase, and it sold out really, really fast. Okay, Heidi, from your white cardstock, you're going to want to cut these 2 postage pieces. So I'm going to cut them so that way they're about a little bit larger than the 2 dies. And I'm going to run them through separately in my machine. Just because they're a little bit bigger, I don't want any chance of them not cutting perfectly. So I will be running these through separately. So I'm not going to put them on the same sheet of cardstock. Okay.
Show us some hearts if you're still crafting along, creating together.
Absolutely. And let us know what the pacing is, and let us know if you're doing okay. If we need to speed up, slow down, please speak up. All right.
Cindy
So at
said
this
she
point-
loves seeing 2 people making the same thing. Oh, good, because that was
Aw.
another one of our worries, is we should only have 1 camera or 2, but this is, I'm a student, and I get to learn with Cindy, with you, and with everybody else, so I'm glad you're patient and letting me join along.
I love being able to do this together. It's so much fun. Okay, so Heidi, you are ready to bring in your die cut machine at this point. I'm going to pick up all of my pieces here and just set them aside so I have room. Just make sure you don't lose any of your little dies if you haven't taped them in place. We're going to start first with the box, just because that's the big one.
We're going to slow down just a little bit, Nina.
Okay.
Perfect.
While we're
Alright.
slowing down, I'm just going to comment on the fact that Nina and I are each using a different die cutting machine today. I'm using the Intercut, and I'm a hodgepodger. I've got lots of machines, I've got lots of plates. One of the reasons why I like the Intercut is because I don't have to memorize or look up any recipes. There's dials here on the side. This is the Gina K Intercut, and you can leverage your tightness or your firmness without having to figure too many recipes. And if you do want to add a shim for any reason, you can. Sometimes I like to experiment. But the Intercut is nice for that. I also have Spellbinders plates, I have Sizzix plates, it doesn't really, Gina's got plates, everybody's got plates. You just figure out what works for you, and it's nice that Nina and I are each using something different. Nina, what machine are you using for die cutting today?
I'm using the Big Shot, and
Okay.
I have the extended platform on mine. I really like that. It just kind of gives me a little bit more room, and plus it has the little panels that you can flip up if you were using a die or an embossing folder or whatnot. I like this machine. Although you have said so many good things about the Intercut, I actually just ordered one so that I can try it out myself.
Never have too many
Our-
machines. Great idea, Nina.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I can never have enough craft supplies. I think everybody can attest to that. So I'm placing my sweetheart box into my machine. I'm going to go ahead and lay my other cutting plate on top, and I'll run this through. And this one might make a little bit of a crack, so I apologize for that. I did try to put it at an angle so it hopefully wouldn't make too much noise.
I'm not used to cutting on a table that's taller than me. I'm sorry.
I think we learned along the way. So.
Yeah.
All right, so that leaves me with our box, and check out this cute little window. How cute is that? And I'll go through folding all of this. Don't worry about any of that right now. We're just working on cutting at this point. Okay, and by the way, this little heart that we cut the window, don't throw out this little guy. He's usable for another project. I'm saving him. All right. And the other thing I'm doing is I have a little dish by my workstation. So that way, as I'm starting to cut all of the small pieces, such as the XO or our little hearts, I'm going to place them in here so I don't lose them, because somehow inevitably I end up losing things.
So this
right,
question
Heidi,
is in the chat twice. How many hearts do you have, Nina?
We are going to end up with 3. So I've cut 3 small pieces of the metallic red cardstock. We're using the 2 smaller hearts from the Sweetheart box die set. We're going to cut this guy twice and the middle-sized heart once. So we'll end up with 3 pieces. Those are going to get placed on both our box. We're going to have one in the center of our window, one at the top, and then we're also going to add one of these little hearts to the bottom of our envelope on our tag. So you want to make sure you cut 3 of them. So we'll need to run the little guy through our machine twice. So I'm going to bring them in. Since we're talking about them, we'll do those next. And I have a little bit of room that I'll also bring in our little shadow layer for the Love You More sentiment. I can cut all of these at once. So just maneuver these onto my plates, and we're going to cut all of them. Heidi, do you have yours ready?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So go ahead and run those through your machine. And just carefully pick that up, slide it over so you guys can see it better. And then, like I said, I'm just going to start collecting these into my bowl so that I don't lose them. Same with the shadow layer. And then I will set aside the medium-sized heart, but keep that little heart available, because with that other small piece of the red cardstock, I want to cut that again. So that way I have 3 of them. So Heidi, do you have your 3rd heart?
Almost.
Okay.
Is this a table you always craft on, Nina, like when you're working in your day-to-day?
Yes, it is.
That's the height you want? Okay.
Yeah, it's a counter-sized table. So about 30, I think that's about like 35 inches. I find it's a nice height. If it's too low, then I'm bent over, and that's no fun. Okay, so next, I'm going to bring in, since I have it on top, I'm going to use my XOXO. So this is the sentiment that we're cutting from black cardstock. You're going to cut it twice, so you should have 2 small pieces of black cardstock. Again, we'll have to run this through twice, so I'm going to go ahead and run this through one time and then a second. When I'm cutting a die, especially something that's a little bit more boxy or linear, I always like to put it at an angle if possible, so that way it doesn't make my machine kind of jerk or jump. It ends up making it a little bit more smoother to run through, and I find that really helpful. It runs through the rollers a little bit easier. Okay, so these guys, just kind of pop them off of my plate here. Get rid of the little inner parts. and then save those little tiny pieces. And then we're going to do this all over again.
So we're running our XOXO, the same die, through the machine twice on 2 different pieces of black cardstock.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. So this way we'll have a set of XOs for each side of the box. Okay. I love die cutting. It's one of my favorite techniques. Heidi, what's your favorite technique for crafting?
I don't think she heard you.
I'm focused on my XOs.
Sorry.
You know, that's a good question. It depends on, like right now, I do enjoy die cutting right now. For a long time, it was ink blending, and I think with our positively saturated inks, that's probably still
Yep.
my go-to. It's just so therapeutic. Okay, so I got my
That it is.
XOs, and I'm gonna put those aside.
Yeah, if you've
Okay.
got some sort of dish, like maybe one of our triangle trays, and if not, just tuck them off to the side of your desk.
Okay, tucked away.
All right. So now I'm going to die cut the Love You More greeting. Now this is a bit more intricate, so depending on your machine and how it runs through, you may need to run it through a second time. Sometimes those intricate dies can be a little fussy. Again, I'm putting it at an angle through my machine, and we'll see how it turns out. Sometimes the intricate dies, you might need to like throw a shim in or something. So we'll see how this looks. Ooh, mine cut perfectly. And this is where the pokey tool will end up being really helpful, because we're going to have to poke out all of these little inner parts of the die. Not right now, we'll do that later. But that's going to be helpful to have that pokey tool, so that way you can get those pieces out. And since mine stayed inside of my paper so nicely, I'm just actually going to slide that into my dish so that way I don't lose anything. It's really nice that it stayed in there. Heidi, how are you doing with your die cutting?
I will be finished in a second. I'm making sure that my E doesn't get removed from my more.
Paper? Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It's a really nice die though, because most everything stays together. I'll show you here on camera. Most of these letters are connected, other than like the E is on its own, and then like these from the love and you are separate from the larger parts. But most everything is connected, so it makes it really simple for you to assemble. You're not having to fuss with every individual letter, so I really like that. Okay, if you're ready, Heidi, we'll move on to die cutting our postage pieces.
And while you're working on that, there's one question. It says, will there be an instruction sheet for these projects later? No instruction sheet, but this video is available on Rewatch, so you can just follow along with the video.
Absolutely. It's a great resource to be able to go back, and like Heidi said earlier, you can rewind, fast forward. If you weren't clear on something, you want to see it again, that's the great part of the replay. Okay, so I'm using the square postage die next. That I'm going to go ahead and cut with the white cardstock. I have it again at an angle. I'm just going to run that through a second time. It comes back. And that'll create a really cute little piece. This is going to be adorable as a tag. So Heidi, you should have this, and then we'll do the larger one next.
Great. I'm good.
How are you doing?
We're just chipping away over here. So one other question is, thanks. One other question is, if you missed the announcement, so we went live to announce this live stream. The best place to get the the latest updates would be our newsletter. Just posted in the chat a link to our newsletter so you could sign up.
And the other thing too, Reed, I'll just bump over to the front facing for a second. If you want to see these projects up close too, we have a blog post that showcases all of the projects, the still images, so you can always use those as a reference too.
Great, love it.
Okay, so Heidi, next you're going to grab your largest postage piece, and we'll run that one through. We're almost done the die cutting. All right. Hopefully my machine is not making too much noise. Okay. So this is our panel. This is what we're going to do our stenciling and ink blending. This will be for our card. And finally, you should be left with the coordinating dies that are going to cut out our cute stamped images. So since we already have those taped down, we can run those through. And that will be the end of our die cutting session. And then we get to move on to the fun part, which is assembling. Okay.
So one final question from the, not final,
Yeah.
no, we can ask as many questions as we want, but another question is, what is the assembled box size? I got that pulled up. It is 3 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall by 1 inch deep.
It's a really good size. It fits, like I'll show you on screen here. I put candy in here. There's it holds, these are bigger pieces of candy, and it held quite a bit. I'm gonna guess, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like probably 10 pieces of large size candy. And so if you had something even smaller, like those cute little conversation hearts, or I don't know, something else small, you could fit a lot in here.
And Stephanie
Okay.
commented in the chat, the blog post will be live tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Wonderful. All right, so at this point, we can put our die cut machine away. And Heidi, how are you doing?
Great.
Okay, are you ready to do some assembly?
Yes.
Alrighty. So, I think to get us warmed up, kind of like ease our way into the projects, I think we're going to start first with our tag. It's a quick and simple project, and it's really fun, and I think that will be a great way to kind of like get our crafty juices flowing.
Okay, and then we'll do the box next.
Bit. That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna put that stuff
Okay.
aside.
So, if you want to go ahead and bring in your little postage square, I'm going to use a MISTI for this, but you can also use a block. If you're using a MISTI, I would not put it up in the corner because we need to stamp that little decorative strip off of the tag. So we need to make sure we have enough room to line that up. So I'm actually going to place mine in the middle of my MISTI. And as you can see, Heidi's going to use a block for her stamping. So it just goes to show you there's a lot of ways you can do this. All right, so for the stamping, we're going to bring back in that cute love letter set. And from this, I'm going to start first with that little border. So Heidi, if you want to grab yours, that little border stamp, we're going to line this up along the left side of the tag, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space. I don't want it lined up right exactly on the edge of the tag. I want to bring it in about 1/4 of an inch. So that way we'll still have that cute little white border off to the side. So I'm just going to carefully place this down. It's a little too far. Bring it a little bit closer.
For my
to the-
stamps. They couldn't have gone too far.
Well, they definitely didn't leave the room.
There you go. No worries.
Take your time. So meanwhile, while Heidi's looking for her stamps, I'll kind of explain where we're going here for this tag. So in addition to adding that cute little border, we're going to stamp a postage stamp from the stamp set. So all of this is in the stamp set. It's like I said earlier, it's a great set with a lot of fun pieces that can be used to make all sorts of different collages. We're also going to add the cancellation and the arrow. And then to turn this into a tag, we'll use either a hole punch if you have one, or like Heidi said, we'll use a pokey tool. And I'll show you how you could do that too. Just gives you some options of how you want to assemble this. And we used these fun colors, but if you wanted to change up the color palette here, you could totally do so. This would be fun in other different shades if you wanted to do maybe more of like an orange, purple, and pink color combination. That would be super pretty and very fun for Valentine's Day too. So just don't get stuck on the colors, and feel free to be creative with how you end up making more of these later on your own. Heidi, how are you doing with your stamps?
I just found them.
Did you find them? Okay, great. So you'll need that cute little border that we used earlier. And you're going to stamp that along the left side. And then, as I was saying to the students, just make sure that you leave a little bit of space off to the left of your tag. We're going to stamp this with the red ink. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And then stamp that down. So that'll give me this cute little border here. And I'll clean off my stamp.
I'm literally the messiest stamper in the universe. It's kind of embarrassing that you guys are all able to see me in my ways.
Oh gosh, I'm messy too. And if it's not me, then my cats are helping me be messy. I can't tell you how many times they've spilled embossing powder or glitter or knocked over a tray of sequins. It can be interesting. If anybody else has cats, I'm sure they can relate. All right, so next I'm bringing in this little postage stamp. So we talked about that a few minutes ago. This is what we're going to stamp next, and this is going to get placed in the top right corner of your postage piece. So again, pick that up with your Misty or put it onto your clear block. We're going to use Tropic as our ink for the stamping here. And I just want to, because I haven't stamped this one yet, I'll just kind of prime it a little bit with my hand. And then go ahead and stamp that down. And that looks super cute. Okay, clean off this stamp so I can bring in our next piece. So let me put this back on my sheet. All right, so we want to add this little cancellation mark. So this one, we're actually going to be stamping with our black ink. Like I was saying earlier, it's such a good black ink. You don't have to stamp it more than once, which I love. We're putting this cancellation piece over top of our postage stamp. So you do want to have it overlapping. I kind of lined it up with the center point of the postage stamp. So that's where I'm kind of placing it here. And this is going to get stamped with our Nocturne black ink. So I'll bring that back in. And we're going to stamp that down next. Okay, so it's coming together. Just clean this off before I bring in our final stamp. And that is going to be the little arrow. It's up in the top part of your stamp sheet next to the envelope that we were working with earlier. Now this guy is very delicate and tiny. And so I'm going to just kind of very carefully just kind of place him there. And he wants to stick to my finger a little bit. One of the things I like to do when I have a stamp like that is to bring in one of like a powder tool or something and just kind of brush it against my fingertips. That a lot of times will help keep the stamp from sticking to your finger as badly. But I got them to line up, so I didn't need to grab that yet. We're using the red ink to stamp this down. Now you can stamp it either facing out or you can have it facing in. As you can see, Heidi's sample up in the top corner of her screen, she actually stamped it the opposite direction that I did. So there's not really a wrong way of doing this. So there we go. So I'm going to carefully pull this out we're going to then put this aside so we can work on the next part of our piece. Still working on the tags, so don't bring anything else in. Put my stamp away. I don't lose them. How many times, Heidi, have you gotten a small stamp like that stuck to something and then you can't find it, and then maybe 2 months later you find it underneath like an ink pad or something? All right, I'm gonna keep this off to the side so everybody can kind of see where we're going next. So we're gonna bring in our pieces. What did I do? Here he is. We're going to bring in the envelope. So the envelope, we could leave it like this if we wanted to, but I like adding some color. So we're going to do a little bit of ink blending before we glue this down onto our tag. So for this, you're going to use your blending brushes. I'm going to pull out, I've already used these, so mine already has ink on, but you're gonna pull out one of them and you're gonna use your Tropic ink pad. So these we're going to use to color this little guy. Now I'm gonna zoom in so you can see this better. I wanna show you where I'm putting this ink before I actually do it. I don't want any ink up in this top area of my envelope. I only want it along the bottom. So I'm going to be very careful starting about here and work my way around the envelope and stopping right before I hit the other corner. It's just going to help keep the rest of the envelope clean and white. So Heidi, if you want to grab your ink pad and your blending brush, I'm going to start up here and work my way in very slowly, because if I go too fast then I might mess it up. So I'm just going to slowly bring that in and work my way around the envelope. So as you can see, I'm not going all the way to the top edge of the envelope. I'm keeping it closer to the bottom. This way I maintain that white area, but it allows my envelope to have a little bit of color. And it's okay if you get a little heavy-handed in spots. I have a tendency to go a bit heavy-handed sometimes. I'm always having to remind myself, start light. So there we go. See, I was a little darker on that side, but that's okay. And the other thing to note with our positively saturated inks is that they are a little darker when you first put them down, but then they lighten up. So like side by side, you can see how he has lightened up quite a bit now that this one has dried and this one is still wet. So just something to keep in mind when you're working. When you see the color go down, don't panic when it looks a little dark at first. Okay, so Heidi, if you're happy with your envelope, I just need to clean my work surface so that I don't get ink where I don't want it. All right, so at this point, I am going to put a hole into my tag. Well, it's not a tag yet, but it will be. As Heidi was saying, you could take your pokey tool and punch a hole through it. And I'll show you what that would look like. So I'm going to take my pokey tool and I'm using a surface underneath. This is our Simon Says Stamp Positively Perfect craft pad, but any sort of soft surface works great. You're just going to poke that through, punch the little pokey tool through, and then I like to kind of like afterwards force it through a little bit more to widen the hole, so you could do it that way. If you have a hole punch, you can go ahead and grab that and punch the hole into it too. So either way it works out really, really well. So I'm going to grab my hole punch just to show you that too. So I'm using a 1/8 inch hole punch. You could use a 1/4 inch. Doesn't really matter. You just want to have a hole so that way you can thread your twine through it. Okay, Heidi, do you have a hole in your tag? Wonderful.
Yes.
All right, so you're going to grab your small piece of twine that we have left over from all of our cutting. And I'm going to show you what I like to do. Now, there's different ways that you can attach twine to your projects, but this is my favorite. I'm going to fold it in half, and this end, where it loops around, I'm going to kind of pinch it so it's nice and tight, and I'm going to feed that through the hole. And just pop it through, but don't pull it all the way through. Just leave the ends hanging here, so you kind of have it like suspended between the tag. Does that make sense, Heidi?
Yes, I was washing my hands a little bit.
That's
So I
okay,
get my-
take your time.
So I didn't get my twine and everything because I'm a little, my fingers get pretty inky when I'm
Oh, look, I'll show you, Heidi. Mine got inky, and I added a little fingerprint to my tag. It's handmade. I wouldn't freak out over it. Okay, so once you have your twine through the hole, you're going to take those tails and you're going to slip them through that hole. Let's see if I can get my fingers to work. And then that way they're suspending through the loop, and you're going to tighten it up by pulling them. And there you go. You've attached your twine to the tag. If you didn't want to make the hole and you wanted to attach the twine with something else, like the Tim Holtz little tiny attacher would look adorable if you stapled it to the top. That would be really cute. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my little dish, and we're going to find one of those small hearts that we had die cut from the red cardstock. Here he is. One of these little itty bitty ones that we cut twice. We need him. He's going to get attached to our tag. So you should have these 3 pieces ready to roll. You have yours, Heidi?
Yep.
Okay. So now bring in those foam squares that we looked at earlier in our kit. You should have a whole sheet of those. You're going to grab a few just to go ahead and pop onto the back side of your envelope. I'm doing 4. I mean, it's kind of personal preference how much foam tape you want to use. But those 4 little squares are going on the back side of the envelope. And I'm going to line him up kind of in the middle here. I think that looks good. And good. It hides one of my little fingerprints. Yay. That's one thing I always try to do is I'll mess up a project, but I try not to throw it out even though I messed it up. And I try to find a way to hide that mistake. So like maybe I'll use sequins, or in this case, I was able to put my little die cut piece over top of the finger mark. So I always encourage you to be creative. Okay, so you should also have a craft tacky glue. This is a really great adhesive from our Simon Says Stamp collection in your kit. Mine I left sealed so I could show you this. You want to take the top off just for a minute so that we can remove the seal that's on the glue, okay? And that will allow the glue now to flow easily, and we'll just screw the cap back on. All right, and one other thing I want to point out is the cap that comes with the glue. Can you see that little, basically extra piece of plastic in there? That seals the tip of your glue perfectly so that it doesn't clog. If you leave the cap off, your glue bottle's going to clog. But if you use this cap, don't lose it. If you use it, it will allow you to keep this from clogging. So just a little tip. All right, so I'm going to get the glue flowing here. Don't need a lot, just a little bit, a little small dot of glue down in the bottom corner of your envelope. And I'm going to grab some tweezers just because I have a tendency to drop things. And I'm going to use that to help me attach my little heart to the bottom of my tag. And just place him there. And don't fiddle with him too much because he has to dry. But look how cute. We've completed a project.
It's so cute, Nina. And I just want to see how I had my practice one is to the side. It's so nice. You guys, the people watching can make multiples. And so every time you make it, you can tweak something, use a bigger heart, shift how you put something, put your arrow in a different way. But I find a lot of satisfaction in like mass producing or multiple producing things. And so this is a good example of side by side how you can change it up a little bit each time.
For sure. And like I was saying earlier, changing up the colors too. Like I suggested a pink, purple, and orange color combination. That'd be fun. That would be so cute to see this in that color combination. So if anybody does that, tag us on social media so we can see it.
What's the tag?
Okay.
Is it hashtag SSS create together?
It is. It's up on
for
the
this
screen.
class. Good idea. So if you guys post anything using the supplies in your kit or the kit or are watching this class and make something based on this class, use the hashtag SSS create together so we can all share and be part of the community.
I can't wait to see what everybody starts posting there. Okay, so we're ready to move on to creating our box. I'm so excited about this part. This is, of all 3 projects, this one's my absolute favorite because we're gonna do some old school stamping with a clear block to create this fun pattern. I was actually inspired by some pattern paper when we were like conceptualizing this class. I had seen this pattern paper and I was like, oh, it's so cute. I love this pattern. And I wanted to be able to create that same look on our class projects. So we're going to do some stamping to create that. So we're going to bring in our box panel. Let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see. So this box panel is what we're going to work with next. And we're going to bring in our love letter stamp set. We're also going to need the red and pink ink pads. So make sure you have both of those handy. From this, we're going to use the medium-sized heart. So this one right here by your postage piece, you're going to grab that guy. And we're going to use our clear block to stamp this. And this, don't get alarmed with the freehanding because this is very, very forgiving. We're going to be creating this pattern and allowing some of the hearts to overlap. So if you misstamp something, you're going to be able to take one of the other hearts and cover it up. So don't get intimidated by the fact that we're going to use a clear block on this. So I'm going to use carnation first. I'm going to start off with that pink. And we're going to stamp over this entire panel, even over the flaps along the bottom, because some of those areas will still be visible after we assemble this box. So you want to make sure that every inch of this box has your pattern. And you don't have to have these hearts super close together. They can be as far apart spacing as you'd like. It's really your pattern, your box. You get to do it however you want. By the time we're done, you're going to see Heidi's going to look very different from mine. Even from this stamping that I'm doing right now to the box that I created before, it's going to look different. And that's one of the fun things about it, is that it's a very unique and special design box to box. And this I find is very therapeutic to do this. See, look, I messed up the stamping here. I'll cover it up. I'll show you how we're going to fix that. So don't worry about any areas that aren't 100% perfect. Heidi, what do you think? Do you like this technique?
This is probably my favorite part of the class. It's
Isn't
so
it
relaxing.
Fun to it's so fun to take a stamp and see it come to life. Like this is a simple heart. You could do the same thing with another simple shape. A little flower or stars or birthday images, like maybe it's a candle. Take one little image and go ahead and cover a whole background. It's a really fun way to be able to stretch even the simplest of supplies. Well, I think we were posting on social media. I don't remember if it was, I think it was Instagram, and maybe it was Facebook. Either Beth or Susan had posted about repetition when taking the same stamp and repeating it across a project. It's something that I don't think we always think about, but it's always a great reminder.
Hey, Nina. Can you show what heart you're using from the stamp set?
Absolutely. So from the love letter stamp set, we have 3 hearts. I'm using the medium-sized heart, which is over by the postage stamp. So that's the one you want to use. I mean, you could use either one. It's totally up to you, but that's the one I'm using for my stamping. There's no wrong way to do it. Just want to create a really fun background. And if you notice, as I'm stamping these, I'm rotating. It's just adding a little bit of fun. Okay, I want to show you this too. See, I put my finger in the ink somehow, and I'm going to cover it up because you can. So now nobody will ever know, except for you who watched, that I did that.
And Nina designed these projects. Kudos to Nina. She created all 3 of these projects we're doing today.
Thank you. And I even designed the box die. The Sweetheart box die was my design.
Well done.
And Sherry did the, oh, I'm sorry, not Sherry. I think we had another artist design this love letter set, but Sherry helped put it together, so that was really fun. Okay, so we're ready to move on to red. So you want to grab your cranberry or cherry ink, and we're going to go ahead now and add the red hearts, and we're going to let some of them overlap. So like that spot where I messed up, I am letting that overlap with the pink heart just to cover up my mistake. Some of them I'll stamp in between the other pink hearts, It just kind of depends. As I'm stamping, I'm kind of like getting a feel for where I want things. So you can allow as many to overlap as you'd like, or you can keep it more spaced apart. And just kind of keep rotating. Heidi, you're so fast. You're a very efficient stamper. I'm sitting over here trying to be most perfect with it.
Well, I also don't have to explain what I'm doing. You're the teacher.
You're a good teacher too, though.
And while we're stamping, and just a quick question for the chat, how many of you are watching and how many of you are crafting along? Let us know.
Oh, I would love to know that. You're going to have to tell us what you see, Reed. Yeah, I really love being able to stamp my own pattern. You could cut this from pattern paper and it would be just as cute, but I feel like it's more personal when you get to kind of add your own touch to it. And we're using Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, so it's a nice lighter weight, so it will fold really nicely. If you use a thicker cardstock to die cut this, it will still work, but it's just going to be a little bit more fussy to fold. So I do recommend using a slightly lighter weight paper. If you're stamping this like after class and you have your own cardstock on hand, I would grab something on the lighter end of the scale. Oh, I messed him up. Carefully restamp that. Okay. How many more hearts do I think I need? I think I'm good there. Okay. So, I have my background stamped. I also need to clean my desk because I have ink elsewhere and I will put my fingers in it, as evident already. And then I'm going to clean my stamp and put him away. So put that back. All right, and we're ready to work on some assembly at this point. But before we assemble, I'm going to encourage you to fold on all of the score lines. When this die cuts, let me bring the die in so I can show you better. Let me get my paper off of it. Okay, when this die cuts, all of these inner areas of the die are all score lines. So this is generating the score lines for you. Everything will be in place. All of these areas we need to fold in order to assemble the box. But it's also going to help us in knowing where we're placing some of our accessory pieces, such as the acetate and the XOXO. We're going to put all of that on first before we actually glue everything together. So why don't you go on and pick up your piece and start folding on all of these score lines. So just go ahead and give them a good crease. Like Heidi was mentioning earlier, you can use a bone folder if you'd like. If you don't have a bone folder to crease your folds, a clear block also works. You can run that along your crease just to give it a really good crease. Again, it's not necessary to do this. It's just personal preference if you want to do it. So I'm going to use my bone folder just because I always do. It's kind of like habit. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold on all of these score lines. Okay.
Nina, I would say it's probably about 50% creating with you and about 50% just watching.
Fantastic. How many people do we have watching live right now?
Currently have 660 people at the moment.
Awesome. All right.
That is some creating together.
Yeah, that is a large group. Okay. So all of these score lines are making the shape of our box. This is going to, once this is all folded, you're really going to see this come together. And you're going to see where we're heading with this box. This is where it starts to all make sense. Alrighty. Heidi, what do you think you're going to put in your box?
Wow. You know, Christina, who works here, brought some hardtack cinnamon candy to work, and it was so delicious, and I haven't made hardtack candy in so long. I think it'd be fun to make hardtack candy and put it in here.
Oh, that
Especially
would
for my
be
kids.
awesome.
One of my favorite memories when I was little, and I know this is kind of cheesy, but I remember one year my mom surprised us after school, and it was Valentine's, And she had these little Valentine's treats for us, like those red hot, tiny little candies. And
Yes.
I mean, I felt so loved. Like, it was such a surprise.
Aww.
Like, just, oh, look what I did. You know, because you go to school and you do all those treat boxes. But
Yeah.
I mean, my mom didn't usually do all that kind of stuff. She was a gardener and cooked a lot. So to have little treats and crafts for us was.
That's sweet. That's a good memory.
And we would make
Okay.
hardtack candy, which is fun. See, don't get me started talking. This class will be 4 hours.
No, I love it when you chat. Okay, so that acetate, we got to find that. If you found it in your box, make sure you grab that because we're going to use this to add the window to our heart. So I'm going to, this is where folding it is really helpful because it's going to help you eyeball how much you need. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up on top of the back side of my box and kind of eyeball. I want to leave a little bit of space. I'm going to show you here. I'm leaving a little bit of space here so that way it won't impact my folding of the side of the box, but it's still going to be bigger than the window because you want it to be just a little bit bigger than the window so that way you have space to glue it. So I'm going to roughly cut the width of the box, and I need to shave off a little bit here. It's a little too big. Okay, let me see how that looks. Yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to roughly cut the height that I need. This one's a little less critical because you've got a lot of room around the heart up and down, but the sides are a little bit more tighter. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our little acetate piece that's a bit bigger than the window. Okay. Pick up the extra acetate sheets. Okay, and now I'm going to bring in my craft tacky glue once more. And we're going to add glue in 2 places. All the way, let me bring some black cardstock in like Heidi did so I can show you. This acetate is so clear. Okay, so we're going to put the glue around all 4 edges of our acetate. So, get the glue to the end of the bottle. So just a little bit of glue. I'm not like over gluing this. I don't want a lot because I don't want it to like be all goopy. So just a thin line of adhesive around the edges. And then I'm going to add a little tracing of glue around the outer edge of this heart window. And that'll just help hold the interior portion of the acetate so it's not going to like pop through a little bit when you're holding onto the box and giving it and whatnot. So then we can just lay our acetate over top of that wet glue and press that in place. So now we have a window to the inside of our box. How cute! Okay, now before we go any further, we need to glue one more thing onto the box, and that is our little XOXO pieces. So grab those.
I saw Justin Novak asking, or was it Justine, asking what I use, or Judith Novak asking what I use to clean my stamp and stencil mat. While you're getting your XOXOs, I'll talk. I don't clean my mat. And that ink, it's really weird. The ink doesn't transfer to another surface. Brutus Monroe makes a cleaner for the mats, and we sell that cleaner, but I don't clean mine. It's the weirdest thing. And that mat is very gently used compared to all the other mats I have. This thing is sturdy. You bend it to get your stuff off of it. It's a very affordable, incredible tool, and we'll be using it more shortly. So
I do the same
I'll talk
thing.
more about it.
I don't clean mine that often too, as you can see. This one, like Heidi, is not as super heavily used. But if you did want to clean it, you could use the Brutus Monroe Stamp and Stencil Mat Cleaner, or very carefully, I've sometimes used a baby wipe to clean it off too. Okay, so if you've got your XOs, we're going to glue these in 2 places. So again, this is where folding is really helpful because now we can see the shape of the box and where things are going to end up being placed. So the XOs are going to get glued on this panel, which is to the right of your front panel, which has the window in it. So this right panel, and then this left panel, which is in between the 2 big panels. So this is your back, this is your side panel on the left, this is your front, and then this is the right side of the box. So we're gluing those on these 2 panels. Now the other thing that I want you to remember as you're gluing these down is we are going to be adding this little border strip and some twine. So you don't want to have your XOXO too far down. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down, so that way I can make sure that I leave space here so that the twine isn't going over top of my little greeting. So I'm going to work on the right side of my box first, and we're going to use the craft tacky glue to assemble these. Try not to like overwhelm my glue pieces with the glue. And then, like I said, I'm going to work at the top and come down from there. So I'm just to show you here, there's the edge of the box. So I'm like probably about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less than 1/4 of an inch from the top. I'm going to work my way down from there. And so then I'll just bring in all my little pieces and add just a small amount of glue to the back side. And using my tweezers to help me hold them. If you don't have tweezers, you can easily use like just like maybe your pokey, or not pokey, but like a wax tool to pick it up too. These hold really well. So, and worst case scenario, you can use your fingers. I'm just so like, my fingers are not flexible. So, oh, I'm using an O. Silly me. Okay. Well, since I already put glue on it, I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm going to add my O here, and then I'll glue my X right above it. Me getting all distracted over here.
While you're messing with that, there's a question in the chat asking what that product is. It is the reverse tweezers.
Yeah, these are our Simon Says Stamp Reverse Tweezers, which are so nice because they stay closed when you aren't pressing onto the sides. They open when you press on them. So it's really, really convenient when you're trying to glue. You're not having to squeeze them. You can just let them rest in your hand. And then once you want to release it, then you squeeze them and drop your piece in place. Okay, next we're going to go to the left side of the box and glue our other set of XOs. And don't worry about if you accidentally get too much glue on your piece, because our Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, even though it goes on white, it dries clear. So you're not going to see any excess glue that's kind of like squished out the sides. It's kind of always been my saving grace when I'm crafting, because sometimes inevitably I end up with a little too much glue. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Nobody will ever notice. Okay.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Nina-Marie Trapani is in the house, and that is Nina's mother. Welcome, Nina-Marie.
Yay!
Thank you for such a
Hi,
lovely
Mom.
daughter.
And actually, my sister is probably watching too. They had bought the Sweetheart box die set, and they were going to be crafting along with us. So they are probably working on making their box right now too.
Oh, that is really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Welcome, sisters.
And my sister loves to create. She's always working on trying out new techniques and stuff. Okay, so Heidi, looks like you have your XOXOs. So see, this is how they're gonna look. So cute. Okay, so now we're going to actually glue this together. And gluing this together is so simple. You literally are going to have this done in seconds. So, in your kit, you have your Terrific tape. I'm gonna open mine since probably most of you haven't gotten a chance to do so either. So we'll do this together. Pop off the header and slide him out. Terrific tape is one of the best tapes ever because it literally tears just like the name suggests. And there is a little green like sealer on this. You're just going to peel that off so that way you can release the tape. So my tape is now primed and ready to go. But this tape is so easy to work with. I'm just going to show you before we actually bring it to the project. all you have to do is pinch your fingernail against the edge of the tape and rip it off. And you end up with a little piece that's ready to go onto your project. It is the simplest adhesive ever, and I love it. Okay, so 2 places we are going to be adding this adhesive. One of them is this little bottom flap. This tiny little strip here is where we're going to add a line of adhesive. This is going to close the sides of the box together and allow it to attach to the other end. Then we also need a little bit of tape on the back side here. So flip the box over. You need to add a little bit of tape either on this flap or this one. It doesn't really matter because one of them is going to attach to the other. I'm just going to put it on this one here, which is underneath my main window panel. So I'm going to put it here. But if you put it on this end of the box, that's totally fine too. Okay, so just make sure your tape is pressed down good so that way when you peel off the release paper, the tape stays in place. We're going to go ahead and remove the release paper from our small tab here, okay? And this is going to get attached to this panel, okay? It's on the other end of your box. Now, before you attach it, I want to show you how I like to do it, and this I think will allow you to assemble this a little bit easier. So you're going to fold that small flap over, so it's kind of heading towards the interior part of your box. And then you're going to bring this over and meet it up to the other end of your box. So to this end here. And you're just going to allow the box to basically flatten itself into it. Okay? And then you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how it's supposed to line up. It just kind of naturally falls into the other end of the box. So now you should have your sides attached. Now we're going to fold in our small flaps on the bottom. So remember, this is the bottom of the box. You're going to fold that one side of the box that doesn't have any tape on it over. And then the side that does have the tape, you're going to peel off the release paper and then carefully fold that over to meet up with the edge of the box. And then that's going to close the bottom.
Which is the advantage of being on video. If you guys need to pause your screen.
Absolutely.
And rewind if you need to.
Yep. And that's one of the great things about Rewatch is that you can go back and see this over and over again if you need to. Okay. So at this point, this is where we're going here. So you can see how our box is coming together. We just have a couple more things to adhere to this box. One of them is that little postage border piece, which I have here. Okay. And then we also need the other small heart that we had die cut, as well as the medium heart. Okay, so you should have these 3 pieces handy. Again, that's the medium-sized heart from the Sweetheart box, the small heart, which we had die cut twice, that's also from the Sweetheart box, and then your little border. I'm going to glue the small heart first because I do want him to have a chance to dry before the end of the class so that I can show you how that adds a cute little decorative piece to this notch. So if you look here, this notch is pre-cut for you so that you can slide the end of the box into it to close it. But I thought it would be cute to not just have that little notch, but have a little heart to decorate it. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this better. Might be a little too far. Okay. I'm going to add a little dot of glue right underneath that cut line. Not a lot. You don't want to over glue this because you don't want any glue going up above that little notch. And then you can take your little heart and place him onto it. And I'm kind of like giving, I would say it's about halfway up the heart that that little notch is sitting. So it's kind of just above the fold here of the box. Now he has to dry. I don't want to show you how this works. I mean, I can show you on my sample here that we did earlier. This is what it's going to look like, but it's still drying, so I don't want to play with it right now. So just leave that to dry. You're going to bring in your medium heart next. We're going to glue him to the center of the box. Zoom back out a little bit. Okay, and for this we're going to use that craft tacky glue. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back side here. Reed, how are we doing on questions?
We're doing good. Mostly the questions have been of how do we find out about the next class? Right now, the best place to find out about the next class is our newsletter. You can sign up for our newsletter at the top of our website.
A newsletter is a great resource for everything, not just classes, but sales and inspiration, new releases. Our newsletter is fantastic. Okay, so our little border piece is going to go along the bottom of the box here. I'm going to put more glue across it than I need because, of course, remember, this is a little bit wider than our box, but I'm letting the glue go further out the sides just so that way I make sure every inch of it is glued in place. And then we'll trim it so that it's flush with the box. So I just glued that down, and then I can bring in my scissors and trim that up so that way we have a nice flush edge. Okay, oops, press him down better. Might not put enough glue on it. Okay, so now we're going to bring in our twine. Now you're going to use the slightly shorter piece, which is 20 inches for the box. The longest one is for the card. So you want to make sure you grab the length that you cut at 20 inches. We're going to lay this down onto our work surface, and then we're going to lay the box on top of it. Then we can bring up the sides and start to tie this into a cute little bow. I'm going to put my bow off to the side of the box, but you could put it in the center, wherever you want to place it. It's personal preference. But we're just going to do a simple bow, nothing fancy. And then just tighten that up. If you want to, you can leave the ends as long as you want them. You can make the size of the bow whatever size you'd like. That's why I would give you a little bit of extra twine just so that way you can fiddle with it and get it to the look you want. And then if you want to, you can trim up these ends. I'm going to because I like them a little shorter. So I took my scissors to just trim those up a little bit. But there we go. How stinking cute is this? So
Super
then,
stinking cute.
you can fill it with candy or treats or whatever you want. Like, how cute is this? And I was saying earlier, like, these patterns are not identical. And that's what's fun, is that compared to Heidi's, she has lots of red hearts and I have more pink. It's you get to create this however you want, and I love that. All right, so our box is complete. The last thing we need to do is create our coordinating card. So Heidi, are you ready to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so for this, we're going to use our Outline Hearts stencil set. And I know you can't see that, so I'm going to show you the back side. This is what the pattern looks like when it's all built. And this is obviously just an example of colors that you can use. We're going to be using the 3 colors that are in your kit, which is Cranberry, Carnation, and Tropic. Okay, so all 3 of these colors are going to be used for our ink blending. Zoom out a little bit here so we can see what we're doing. So go ahead and open up your stencils if you haven't already and pull them out. I want to show you something before we start ink blending. Okay, and actually let me zoom in because I think you'll see this better if I zoom in. Okay, see this etching that says Simon Says Stamp, and it also has a SKU number on it so you know which product it is. That etching is very important because this is a layering stencil set. So these layer up. See, these are all sorts of different parts of the full design. And all of these are going to end up working together to build the end pretty pattern. So it'll end up looking like this. But if you make sure that your stenciling is on the front side of the stencil, which is where you can see that etching, then you know that this is the front of your stencil and everything will get pieced together beautifully. So always pay attention to that etching. I know it's hard to see on camera, but you can see it really well in person. All right, so we're going to ink blend with these. and we're going to be ink blending onto that postage panel that we had die cut earlier. Okay, so you're also going to make sure you have that, and make sure you have your blending brushes. And then the last thing you want to make sure you have is the stamp and stencil mat that you got in your kit, because this is going to help us line this up perfectly as well. So there's a protective film over it when you're pulling it out of your packaging. Peel that off so it reveals the sticky surface. You're going to take your postage.
Can I interrupt this regularly scheduled program?
Go for it.
Nina is the teacher, but Reed is going to put the camera on me for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, everybody. I'm still here. Your stamp and stencil mat. I might not be doing the same thing as Nina, but I'm telling you what I have found, tried and true. This baby is sticky, really sticky. Sometimes it's too sticky for me. Not for everybody, but for me. So how I make my stencil mat unsticky, do you have a dog or a cat or a pet? I put it on my clothes, and the little pieces of cotton reminds me of removing hair from your fur from your clothes. This will make my pants, this will make your mat a little less sticky. If you find that you personally prefer your mat to be less sticky. I like mine less sticky. Nina, let's put the camera back on the downside again. Read the cameras. Nina, do you like yours to be less sticky or more sticky?
I honestly don't know, because mine ends up being not that sticky because I have cats. I have 4 of them. So this is a brand new one, and I'm always like, oh, this is so nice, because by the time I've used it at least once, it's covered in cat hair. So I would say I'm used to it being not that sticky, but I'm going to get to use it today fresh, which I'm looking forward to. Okay, so we're going to place that little postage panel that we worked on and we cut from the white cardstock into the center of this teal rectangle. This is important because this is an A2 card size, and so this is a great guide. Since it's a little bit smaller, you can see where that is, but if you had an A2 panel, you would line that up with the rectangle and it would sit perfectly on top. But this is the center point of your stencil. And then the stencils, we're going to line up in the middle of the black square. But I want to show you which stencil to use because this is part of the technique. There are 4 layers here, but one of these layers has really big hearts on it. It's this one. And let me grab my black cardstock so you can see that better. It's this one here that has these really big hearts on it, these 4 large hearts. This one is important that we ink blend with the red because we're going to stamp this heart into the big one at the top. Okay, so after this, it does not matter which stencil you use for any of the other ink blending or stenciling, but this one is important. So please make sure that you have the stencil with the 4 big hearts on it. And I'll leave that here just for a second so that you can get a good look at it before we move on. Okay, so with this stencil, we're going to work with this one first since I'm pointing it out. We're going to line this up into that black square. And from here on out, all of your other stencils are going to get lined up in that black square so that this whole thing builds perfectly. And then again, I'm going to say this one more time, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but it's really important. Make sure that you're etching. Oh, you're not going to see that. Let me show you this one. Make sure that your etching is facing forward. It's really important. Okay, so with our stencil in place, we're going to grab our red ink and we're going to get a blending brush. I have mine already used, so I'm going to use the one that I have inked up with red ink. And I'm going to work off my mat and into the stencil so that I don't overwhelm the stencil with ink. If you put the ink down too heavy all at once, there is a chance that you could have the ink kind of seep under the edge of the stencil just because it's too much all at once. It hasn't absorbed into the paper fast enough. So I always recommend working off and in before you bring your ink to, or your brush to the paper. Trust me, you'll be happier if you do. Okay, so we're going to ink blend all of these hearts to form the first layer of our background. And you can get as heavy-handed or as light as you want with this. There's no wrong or right way of doing it. It's just personal preference, whatever you want. You're going to see that Heidi's and mine are going to look a little different from each other just because we have different ways of ink blending. But they're still going to turn out beautiful in the end. Okay. And for this, we're using some small blending brushes. These are really nice because they are great for being a little bit more controlled of where you're placing the ink. You can use larger blending brushes, but I do find that for projects like this where I've got a lot of little things to color, I like to reach for something a tad smaller. Okay. So I think I didn't need a little more on this one. And this guy. So I can always come back in and add more ink. But you can't take it away once you put it down. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So, once you have that first layer ink blended, you can peel back the stencil to reveal the design. And there we go. Look how cute that is. So, I'm going to set this guy aside. Normally I would go clean them after I'm done all of this, but for the sake of time, we can't do that. I'm going to clean off any red ink that I have on my surface so I don't get it contaminated with the next color. And then like I said when we started this, at this point you can grab whichever one of these 3 stencils you'd like. This part is not critical. We're just going to color them with the pink and the teal to finish off the ink blending, and then we'll draw in the black hearts. So Heidi's showing the etching. Remember to make sure that the etching is facing you. And then we're going to line this up inside that black square again. And by lining them up inside the black square every time, you know that it's going in the right place. So that way your pattern will come together perfectly. So I'm going to go with pink next. Just what I had on hand, and looks like Heidi does too. So if everybody wants to grab their pink ink pad, go ahead and start ink blending your next set of hearts. Heidi, when you ink blend, do you like to work in? It looks like you like to work into the pad. Is that something that you like to pick up the ink and keep handy, basically?
Oh, you mean the lid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even realize I was doing that. Yeah, that's what I do.
Because I like to work onto the work surface, but that's a really good idea because it kind of like preserves the ink. You're not wiping it away later.
Yeah, and you know, there's so many personal preferences because I know you really like to work on a glass mat. Mm-hmm. I like to work on, really today's surface isn't what I usually work on. I like to work on actual paper, like our big 11 by 17 grid sheets is my favorite. Yes. Because I like to just peel it off and throw it away. Oh shoot, I moved my stencil while I was sitting here talking. That's okay, it was good. So it's personal preference. I don't know, does anybody in the chat, does anybody else use the lid of their ink pad like I do? I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do that before. I think I just started doing that on my own and didn't think about it. I think
it's smart. Are you going to, you're done with your pink?
Oh, Betsy. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to do the reveal because I was talking and moving at my stencil while I was talking.
That's okay. I revealed the pink. It looks so cute. Okay, so now I'm going to use the teal ink and another stencil. So again, whichever one you want out of what's left over from the other stencils that we haven't used yet, that's what we'll grab next. And for this, we're using the Tropic.
Maybe I saw Callie do that. That's probably because now I'm thinking of it. I saw somebody in the chat say they learned that from Callie. Callie Person might do that. That's ringing some bells.
Super smart. It's a great way to save your ink because like here I am wiping it off. I think I could have reused. Okay, so Tropic, and then grab your third blending brush, and you should already have that preloaded with a little bit of ink because we use that to color in our little envelope. And I'm just going to go ahead and color in the rest of these hearts. This will be the last layer that we ink blend. The fourth layer from our stencils, that is what we're going to use with the black pen. And I think that's a fun technique that we don't always think about doing. So I'm really excited to show that to you. All right. Those chocolates over there, they look so yummy. I kind of want a snack.
It is lunchtime.
Nina, quick question for you. What do you use to clean off your stencils?
Typically just water, but if I have like paste or something on them, I might add a little like Dawn, but otherwise just water. I just run them underneath the sink. Okay, and your stencils might stain over time. I mean, like things like pink and red have a tendency to leave a little bit of a staining, but your stencils work just perfectly even with the staining. It's not a problem. Like here, I don't know if you can see, my block has a little bit of a pinkish tone to it, just because I've gotten pink and red ink on it so much. Okay, so now, clean again. I'm going to bring in that fourth layer. This fourth layer, again, make sure you have your etching facing you. We're going to place down, and this time we're going to use the black pen that you got in your kit. And if you don't have the kit, we're using a 0.5 black pen. So just kind of like, it's a nice, not super fine tip, but it's finer, so it'll give you a really good line. Okay, but before I go ahead and start tracing through these hearts, because that's where we're going with this, we're going to trace each one of these hearts from the stencil. I want to show you how I like to do this because I think it gives you a cleaner trace. I'm going to start at the tip of the heart, work my way around the left, and then finish back at the tip. If you try to like start somewhere else and get around that tip, I find it's easy to like skip by it and then like add a weird line across your heart. So I find it really easy and better, gives you a better trace if you start here at the tip and meet back up where you started. Okay, so what you're going to do is just come along and using your stencil as your guide, you're just going to go through and trace each one of the hearts that you have here. Okay, and it's okay if you get the black pen on your stencil. It might leave a little like stain, kind of like the red inks, but it won't impact any of your use. So I'm just going to go through and carefully trace over these so I can fill them in. I love this because I don't ever like do this enough with my stenciling. I always like end up filling everything in with ink or adding paste maybe, but this is a great way to give a completely different look to your project. And you could do this with like any other pen, glitter pens, gel pens. Imagine if you did this in like different colors of those types of pens. I think it would look so cute. Have you ever done this before, Heidi?
With you only.
You've never tried this on your own?
No, I think this is a whole nother level for stencils. I thought I'd seen it all with pastes and glues and splatters and inks, and this is a whole different, fantastic option.
Well, now you're going to have to go home and experiment with it.
I want to try it with glitter pens too.
I think that would be pretty. And so what I think is also fun about it is that it also gives it a little bit more of a handmade feel. Like it feels like you drew this. I mean, you did, but like you used the stencil to help you get the perfect shape. And I think that's fantastic because sometimes it's always like pressure when you're trying to like hand draw an accent to something and it's like, okay, I don't want to mess it up. All right, so our pattern is complete at this point and it looks adorable. And as you can see, I'll zoom out a little bit more so you can see these things side by side. I have my hearts in the same place that I did on my example here. But if you notice, all my other hearts are in a different location. And same with Heidi's. her hearts are not in the same location as mine, other than the red ones. All the other colors and then our tracing are in different places, which I think is a really great example of how it adds a little bit of a different flair to your pattern, but yet it still looks beautiful no matter which way you do it. So I'm going to remove this from my Stamp and Stencil mat. To do that, I like to fold the mat in half. As you can see here, it's kind of rolling up on itself, and then I can carefully peel off my panel. And so I just carefully do that so I don't bend it. And the less sticky your Stamp and Stencil mat is, the easier it will peel off. All right, so set that aside. So we're ready to add our stamping to that large heart up in the top left corner. So for that, we're going to use that same love letter stamp that we've been using all day. And we're going to go ahead and take the heart that's down here by the hugs. It's the little heart with the arrow going through it. Oh, we're getting the maximum use out of this thing. And we're going to stamp this with the black ink. I'm going to just put it on my clear block, but if you want to go ahead and grab your Misty for this, go for it. So I'm just going to ink up my little stamp here as I stick my finger in the ink. And then go ahead and carefully place that on top of the heart that's at the top of our panel. So there we go. We got that cute little pattern there. Clean off my stamp. Alrighty. So we're going to be putting this onto a sea glass card base, of which you get 2 in your kit. So you can make more than 1 card, which I love. So we're only going to need 1 today. You'll have an extra for later. These are pre-scored, so you don't have to go ahead and score this. Let me see if I can show you. There it is. There's the score line. So you're just going to go ahead and fold it over, and you're done. How nice is that? I will crease mine with my bone folder just because, like I said earlier, it's my habit of doing that with everything. And this is going to allow us to then place our panel on top. We're going to pop this up though, and for that we're going to use the double-sided foam that's in your kit. We're going to cut this down.
People were wondering why that was in there.
Now it makes sense. I'm going to use the long end and cut this off basically in half, because then I'll have another piece left over for another panel. So it doesn't have to be covering the entire postage panel. This is really handy because it's already got adhesive on both sides, so it's only it's a peel and stick. Super, super easy. So peel off one side of the release paper, and then go ahead and place that onto your panel. All right, and then we're going to attach our twine to it before we attach it onto our card. This way the twine won't slide around. So I'm going to peel off that release paper on the other side, and then I'm going to just kind of gauge where I want this on my panel. I kind of want it along the bottom here. So that gives me a good idea. I'll just kind of pull this off to the side so that way I have that gathered, and then it's going to tack to the back side. So it's stuck now to our foam. And then that way that won't shift as we have it attached to our card. So just wrapped around the back. It's being held down by the sticky, but if you don't like your placement, you can lift it off and reposition it until you're happy with it. Okay? So then Heidi, take your panel and lay that on top of your card base. So that way it sandwiches that twine between the two pieces. And now we can go ahead and tie the twine into a bow. And I'm putting it off to the side here, like so. Simple little bow. You've got extras, don't worry if you've got a little, like not exactly even, you've got room to play with it. Let's see. I don't like that bow. I'm going to retie mine. I'm always fussy with bows. I'm like a perfectionist sometimes, which I probably shouldn't be. Okay, I like that better. Okay, so now just shorten that up so it's not so long. And bring that down a little bit. Okay, I like that's good. And then I can trim off any excess. So there we go, trimmed up our little bow. We're ready to add our sentiment on top. So we do have to glue that together. So bring back in your little die cuts, Heidi. You should have your shadow layer and then the sentiment. And this is where that pokey tool is going to be super handy because we've got all these little inner parts to pop out. So if you didn't pop those out when you were die cutting, now's the time to do that. So we're just going to pop all of them out of the paper here because mine were still in place. That one doesn't have any little inner parts, but these do. Reed, how are we doing on questions?
We're doing great. Beth's doing a great job of answering them as they come, so you're good to
Oh,
keep moving.
fantastic. And how is everybody doing on their projects? You'll have to give us some hearts and let us know where you're at. And if this pacing's good and you guys are keeping up. All right, so I have all of mine ready.
And Deb, I see you're not a twine user. That's what's great about these classes is you can substitute anything you want. If you're not into twine, if you're a ribbon lover, you can add ribbon wherever you want.
I know Susan was supposed to be crafting with us too as we're going along with this project. She has a kit and she's working on making the same projects. I'll bet you she swapped out the twine for ribbon.
Oh yeah, good point. Susan, inquiring minds want to know. Of course, she's probably so busy making, she's not able to type. But we do want to know, Susan, are you one of the ones that swapped out your twine for ribbon?
And as you can see, Heidi's already gluing hers down. We're using the craft tacky glue. So you're going to bring that liquid glue back in again and add adhesive to the back side of your die cut pieces. I'm starting with the biggest piece, which is the L and the M and Y of the greeting. It's just going to help make sure that you know where to place all the smaller parts because this is such a big part of the sentiment. Okay, so that one's down. Now I can really see where we're going with the rest of this greeting. So I'm going to bring in the rest of love.
She used both the ribbon and the twine, so look at her double dipping.
That's awesome. Susan's going to have to post pictures when she's done. I want to see it. Okay, so now I'm bringing in the rest of the word love. And again, if you have any glue that's kind of squishing out the sides, I have a little bit here between my O and V. Don't worry about it. That will dry clear. And then I'll go ahead and finish up adding the rest of my letters. Okay. I love these tweezers for being able to kind of hold everything in my hand so easily. I'd love to know how many people use tweezers. I feel like that's a tool that is so helpful. Heidi, are you a tweezer person? No?
I think it just takes a little getting used to, and I just am more comfortable with my fingers, although they're messier, and I can certainly see the advantages. You people that use tweezers like a third hand, man, I'm a little envious. I don't have that skill set yet. Seriously, though, you know what I mean?
I think it's interesting.
Right? Like you're using your tweezers like a third hand.
Oh yeah.
I think I just need to practice. Maybe I don't know.
It's looking good. Okay. So you have your sentiment ready, as do I. And would you believe this is the last thing we have to do? We have to glue this to our card.
What?
Yeah, can you believe we're already done?
At 2 o'clock, on the 2 hours on the dot? My goodness.
Yeah. So
Dang,
this, we're going to use the foam squares to attach our sentiment to our background. I can't believe it's already been 2 hours. It doesn't even feel like it. Okay. So this is just a few pieces of foam squares on the back. You don't need a ton. You don't need to cover every inch of your die cut. It's going to have beautiful dimension. And then I'm going to put this at an angle. You don't have to, but I want it to kind of like cascade up the card a little bit. It adds a little movement. So that's what I'm going to go for here. So, and I'm going to tuck it right up against my twine. I think that looks really cute. It kind of finishes it off here. And I like that. That looks cute. Oh, Heidi, are you thinking of putting it up a little higher?
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks cute. So look at that. We have completely different looks, but they are still super cute. I can't believe we're done. So now, before we go, though, I do want to show you this because we were letting our little box, the heart, dry. I want to show you how to close this. So all you need to do is kind of push it in a little bit, like kind of force it down, and it pops right underneath of the heart that's there. So Heidi, just take your, I'll show it again. I'll zoom in a little bit too. So push this down along with the other one, kind of force them into the box a little bit.
It's really
and it
a cute
pops
touch.
right underneath the heart. And it adds a little closure, and I think it finishes off the top. It doesn't make the top feel like it was lost. And then you can fill it with fun little candies or little gifts and treats. And you've got a sweet little gift that you can give to somebody for Valentine's Day or any time of year. Like, these aren't even super lovey-dovey cards. These are fantastic for giving at any time of the year, which I think is really nice. If you want to tell somebody you love them, or you want to give them a hug, or just make their day, this is a great project for that.
That's great.
Well done, Nina. Would you guys we'll put faces on. Thank you, Nina. I appreciate you coming
Yes!
and teaching and doing all this work and assembling the class. And you're a great teacher, and I really enjoyed it. I think the students did too. I have a little bit of housekeeping. So we'll say goodbye and thank you so much to Nina. Unless there's anything else you want to add before we. Okay.
Just that I was so glad to be able to do this, and I hope everybody watching and crafting along with us had a great time. And please let us know in the comments what you thought of the class, what was your favorite part, who are you going to give this to? Like, I would love to hear it. So definitely let us know, and thank you for having me.
Great feedback, Nina. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful work, Nina. Thank you. So,
Yes.
Reed, we'll go through just a couple of housekeeping things before we say goodbye. Good job keeping it exactly 2 hours, too, Nina. That's incredible. So, thank you. So, just a few pieces of housekeeping. I saw in the chat, the kids sold out. We are doing another virtual class. Make sure that you sign up for our Simon Says Stamp newsletter, because newsletter people will be the first people to find out. Well, actually, I think we might the students for this class, we might try to send you the notification a little early if we can figure out how to do that. But we do have a new class that will be announced in the coming weeks. And if you were not able to get this kit, no worries. In the YouTube video underneath, we did a really proactive job of linking all of the supplies that were used today. They're all sold at simonsaystamp.com. So you can try to substitute anything from your stash, or feel free to shop at simonsaystamp.com to get your supplies. This video is going to stay living at the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel. If you have any comments or questions, feel free, please do leave below. I think Nina and I will learn a lot from what you enjoyed today, or maybe if you want us to do something differently next time. We are going to have other guest instructors throughout the year. We've already been working on it behind the scenes for many months. So we're excited to be bringing more virtual classes to you. We will not be doing Simon Says Create in person this year. Instead, we are creating together with you all around the globe at the comfort in your pajamas with your messy buns if you have messy bun hair. And we look forward to seeing you again. Super grateful you were here today. Reed, I want to make sure before I bid toodaloo, was there anything outstanding that you want us to make sure to mention?
Nope, you did a great job today. Appreciate everyone joining us.
Reed and Brian did a great job getting our cameras, our light. I hope you've noticed our lighting is a little bit different. We're working on improving our studio. We're actually going to be going into a different studio soon, fingers crossed. And thank you, Brian and Reed worked very, very hard to get this put together today. So Thank you to everybody for joining us and watching us live or on rewatch. Oh man, I had a lot of fun, and this really was an idea for you to be able to create together with us. And I hope you had a good time. And if you're on rewatch, pause, rewind, do whatever you need to do to get those projects made, because it really feels good to come with finished projects at the end of a class. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.